Hey everyone, this is Hans here. Unfortunately, the Wall Street bitch will not be here, but welcome to episode 15 of the Baptize Machine. Great. So in this episode, we'll be having on someone named on Twitter who goes by the name of Customer Service Hell. And we came across each other by just complaining about Airbnb on Twitter. So we're going to kind of dive in onto what this person does. Their website is customerservicehell.com, where they've been kind of ranking companies of the worst customer service since 2021. Right now, the top three worst ones are Expedia Group coming in at number 3, Uber coming in at number 2, and Airbnb is actually coming in at number 1. So we're probably going to mainly focus on discussing Airbnb in this episode. I really hope you enjoy this episode. It should be a really interesting one. And yeah, in a few moments, we will have Customer Service Hell coming on. I also want to take a minute here to thank our sponsors. We have Pickle Walks with the music. We also have HappyDoseCo.com, Happy Dose Co. They are a supplement company we use. We have Looney Raccoony for all our clothing and merchandise, and Shep's Liquor Cabinet for our eye. And so we just really appreciate all our sponsors. We really appreciate our fans when you're able to share our episode, even just sharing the link to Sheen.com. And we're also going to be doing another holiday t-shirt concert. So if you tweet at us, the Baptize on Twitter, you can reach out and get a free holiday shirt from us. Yeah, I want to let our fans know that this will be the last episode of the year 2023. Then we got a lot of exciting things coming your way next year. We're going to probably release one episode at the start of January, and then have a brief hiatus and really start pumping out content for you all in February and March. If you have any topics you want us to cover, people you want us to interview, please let us know, as that is very helpful to help grow our audience by tapping into what our listeners are already into. So yeah, just reach out, tweet at us. You can email us at the baptizemachinepodcast@gmail.com. Hope to hear from you. Customerservicehell.com. Their tagline is serving up the finest seventh circle of support purgatory since 2021. So I think with the rise in AI, a lot of issues around customer support and tech support have been coming up. And so we're really going to dive into how AI has affected customer service and the impact that it's having on customers. You can follow Customer Service Hell on Twitter he's at sad customers. You can also go to their website. If you hashtag customer service hell, that's really how they can follow you. So yeah, we're going to focus a lot on Uber. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas, and I also want to just wish you all a Happy New Year. Gifted myself a Meta 3 Oculus Quest, and I got the Trip app. The Trip app on the Meta. I haven't slept this well in years. I've been able to focus on my other work that I do outside of this podcast, as well as on the podcast. It's really just helped my overall mental health. I would even dare to say more so than cognitive behavioral therapy has for me. So I really recommend looking into the Trip app. It's TRIPP. We are hoping to have the CEO of the Trip app on our podcast sometime soon, so that would be great if she could come on and kind of explain a little bit more about the design, some of the goals of the company, and she might have some more anecdotal stories about how that app has really been helping people. So again, I highly recommend the Trip app. Okay, so before our guest comes on, I'm going to just share my screen really quick and show you this trailer that Customer Service Hell created. Just give us a little more background on them.
Set up with long hold times and how hard it is to speak to a real person.
Ooh, good song choice.
Every year, millions of customers lose time, money, and sanity because of companies who intentionally provide bad customer service. Chances are, you're one of them.
I wonder if he's
3 out
ever
of
worked
every
in
4
customer
Americans
service.
have had to deal with this in the past year alone, and that's as high as it's ever been. And it's not like we're getting the answers that we need in a timely fashion either, leaving a lot of us, well, pissed off. But can you blame us?
All right, well, he's here, so I'm going to let him in. So with us now, we have Sad Customers, who's customer service hell on Twitter. And my name's Hans. Normally I have a co-host with me, the Wall Street Bitch, but he's out of town for the holidays, so I appreciate you coming on. Excited to talk a little bit about your experience with, I think, particularly like Airbnb, but then also I thought we could touch on your website, customerservicehell.com. But you just start off by giving, our podcast, we cover like a wide range of stuff, like all the way from like people who drink their own urine to we recently had the QAnon shaman on, and we've had John McAfee on. We've talked to like medical doctors, mushroom growers, so kind of all over the place, really. We just do everything sexy, and we think good customer service is sexy. So maybe if you could give like, I'm curious, kind of what got you to create this website and these. So I saw you have a YouTube channel too. Were you working in customer service at the time, or did you just have a bad experience? Kind of what motivated you to do all of this?
Yeah, so I've always worked in customer service my entire career, and bad customer service has always been a huge pet peeve of mine, maybe my biggest one of all. And it just really makes my blood boil when I see companies intentionally doing this poorly and really just not caring about what happens to their users as a result of that.
Gotcha.
So a couple years ago, 2021, I decided to start volunteering on Twitter and helping people who were going through situations like this, and started the website. And I started to notice patterns, which companies were continuing to falter in this area. I mean, a lot of them are pretty obvious, but some of them not so much. So it took a lot of interaction on Twitter and just a lot of my own research to find the really bad guys.
Awesome. And what kind of customer service do you primarily do? Is it face-to-face, like phone calls, or is it through, messaging?
Typically over email.
Okay.
I've done phone call support in my career, but mostly done email support.
Gotcha. Cool. And I'll just refer to you as SC as your name, I guess, unless if there's something better for the episode, just I don't have to say sad customers over and over again.
That works, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So my next question is, have you ever had a good, because I know we met on Twitter through talking about kind of terrible Airbnb experiences, but yeah. I'd like on maybe a positive note, have you ever had a good Airbnb experience?
I've actually had pretty decent experiences on there. I don't use it a ton. I like the overall concept of it. I'm not against their mission of having consumer hosting. It's not what I'm all about. But
it's just like when it is bad, it's like it could ruin a whole vacation you saved up for months or a year, so that sucks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When it's bad, it's heinous. That's why I ranked them number one on my website. I've yet to come across a company of their size with such poor customer service, and I don't know if I ever will. Honestly, there's a lot of bad guys out there, but they're the gold standard for this. They take the cake. It's right, in front of us, all this evidence, and it's really sad, mostly.
That is really sad. I'm interested, like, I've seen on Twitter, there's a lot of bad experiences where people live next to like a house where parties are constantly thrown and everything. And I honestly, I feel like most places with neighbors have noise ordinances, so I don't know why aren't they just calling the police, on the noise ordinance if that's what's occurring there.
I think a lot of people are calling
Okay.
police in those situations. I think people would prefer to not have to call the police sometimes if they could avoid it. You probably get a fair amount of that on Airbnb, people calling the cops. But for any safety issue, you should be able to rely on the company that's enabling that to happen. So just telling the user to go to the police, that's something their support team might do because they really like to shirk responsibility. And that's one way to do it. But yeah, to your point, people should be calling the police if it's something that is really dangerous or something that's getting out of hand. I think, get the police involved. You can't rely on Airbnb, obviously. So do whatever's best.
One of the biggest horror stories I've personally heard was I had a friend who had a rental in the Caribbean, and pirates ended up coming to the Airbnb because they were beachable, and so they ended up getting tied to their chairs, and they didn't get physically hurt other than being tied to your chair and being robbed is definitely psychologically traumatizing, but yeah, that happened, and then they weren't compensated at all. I think it was VRBO, actually, not Airbnb, but I'm wondering kind of some stories you've personally experienced or have heard of through your work.
Yeah, I've heard similar stories, and actually I made a parody of one of Airbnb's commercials, the island commercial, where the phone's ringing and no one's picking up. They're insinuating that the traveler is not picking up, but I spun it in a way to show that their customer service team isn't picking up, and the people are calling and leaving a voicemail, and they've just been robbed. So a similar scenario to what you just said, and I see that happen all the time.
Yeah, I could actually play your video and share my screen if you don't mind. Actually, Airbnb's island commercial, right?
Yeah, parody.
Yep. I think this is you. This is it, right?
Yes.
Great.
Why aren't they picking up?
I don't know. This is so frustrating.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
What are we going to do?
At the tone, please record your message.
Hi, Airbnb. Where the hell are your support people? Our beach house just got robbed, and we don't feel safe. I need to speak to someone urgently.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty good. So have you heard of that happening to a lot of other people? Or?
Yeah, I wouldn't have made that particular video if it wasn't a common scenario on the platform. And what I was trying to highlight there was that even in the gravest situations, safety issues, dire circumstances, the company support still treats it as minor. They will often take days to get back to people. They will not give emergency assistance. And it's just the tip of the iceberg for this company. I've seen everything at this point, but this is something that is like customer service 101. When someone's in trouble and they need your help, you want to get back to them within minutes, not days. Certainly not days, not even hours. You want to get back to them in minutes, and they're just ill-equipped to do that. They're not trained well, they're not managed well, and they don't know what to do for any situation, essentially. So, but to get back to your original question, yes, I've seen this scenario happen many times on Twitter.
Have you ever encountered people who are actually physically harmed, or is it usually just loss of material possessions, loss of not being able to stay at the Airbnb, etc.?
I don't see too many physical altercations, but I have seen people on Twitter who were threatened by their host, or it could be the guest doing the threatening. I've seen both sides of the equation, but physical altercations aren't as common as verbal ones, but even then, the guest feels threatened, they feel scared. They don't know what to do. The support team almost never relocates people in that scenario.
Okay.
They write an initial message and then they essentially ghost people. That's what happens most of the time. And they offer like a $15 coupon. That's their MO.
Wow.
But yeah, I see that happen a lot. Verbal altercations. And sometimes it's a solo traveler who's a woman
Really?
and the host is a man, and you don't want to
Yeah.
a person in that scenario. That's just no good. So
That's wild. Do you know if there's been any lawsuits against Airbnb for putting people in these possibly physically threatening situations?
So the company does have a lot of documentation around this and a lot of legalese. They say
Yeah.
that you can't sue them,
Okay.
and they go to great lengths to make sure that people don't sue them. However, I do tell people to sue them in small claims court all the time because these legal documents don't clear them of any responsibility whatsoever. And a lot of people think they do.
That's
They
kind
don't
of like
realize
the terms of agreement people are signing with Airbnb, and then they can't sue them by signing that. Pretty much,
exactly.
it's like if you're going skydiving and you die or some parachute doesn't open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the company is still liable, right? They should have some responsibility if you're traveling with a family of 4 to a foreign country. You get there, and then the host is unresponsive or the listing is fraudulent. At that point, you can call Airbnb support or try to email them. They usually don't do anything for you.
Yeah.
And it's just sad because all the available hotels day of are going to be very expensive, and that's the kind
Especially
of thing
if it's a holiday weekend or something, or summer, kids are in summer break, whatnot. Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, it's a very common scenario.
Yeah.
So I tell people.
Yeah. Oh, sorry to cut you off. I just wonder, like, has anyone ever, like, is there anything they promise in their service agreement, to the customer? Because that would be like a way for people to maybe get some power over them.
Yeah, they promise the world to both guests and hosts. This air cover policy says that you're fully protected. Don't worry, you're going to be okay. It's a super false sense of security on top of all the sleazy things this company does to begin with, to promise people that they'll have this insurance, if you will, and then to just ignore them when they're trying to, use the insurance. It's really like some of the worst, not just support, but like the ethical and criminal ramifications around this.
Yeah,
it's really.
It's only a matter of time until someone is hurt that, brings that to national attention, and then the government's going to get involved. They're going to get in trouble, I'm sure. But it's going to happen eventually, yeah.
People do get murdered in Airbnbs. They have a team that specifically...
Wait, people get murdered in Airbnbs?
They do. It's
really?
happened. You can Google it.
Okay.
There's stories out there. Which, there's so many users on the platform. I would expect it to happen every now and then. Just the law of averages. But when it does happen...
Sorry to interrupt, but I saw on your list on your website that Uber was the number 2 offender for worst customer service. So just to compare the two, would you say more people get murdered in an Airbnb or in an Uber?
That I don't know. I don't know the specific numbers in terms of violent crimes on both platforms. I do know that
just from like what you've been around. Obviously,
I've seen more assaults happen on Uber.
Okay.
I think the murders tend to happen in the Airbnbs. And it's not like thousands of murders, but when it does happen, they have a team dedicated specifically to covering those up and just like, hushing the family of the victim, giving them money.
That's probably when they actually do pay,
Yeah. But they are particularly good at squashing bad press. That's why you don't really see too many negative articles about them. It's another frustrating part of this process.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure they probably have, in general, more happy customers, but the ones that have bad experiences are really probably jaded by it, especially if you felt threatened after you pay all this money to rent a house, like it's your one vacation a year or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's tens of thousands of interactions every year, maybe even hundreds of thousands on this platform, and most of them go well. It's the ones that don't go well that are the problem, because if you look at the percentage of those cases that are unresolved, it's a super high. We're talking, I don't know, 70-80% of those cases just don't get a good resolution.
Yeah, and so you're kind of saying, like, you're expecting Airbnb to have problems, but the issue really is that it's their lack of customer service and their lack of response to actually make anything better in a timely manner. That's like really the problem.
That's the problem, and it's something that they've totally swept under a rug. They don't even care that it's a problem. It starts from the top. It starts from Brian Chesky. He's well aware of this problem.
Is Brian Chesky? Okay.
He will talk about anything else other than customer service. You watch his interviews, he'll talk about product design, the future of travel. He'll talk about, how Airbnb is making travel great for hosts and consumers. But he's really just ignoring the fact that tens of thousands of his users are miserable because of this, losing time, money, sanity. Their vacations are ruined. They're going to people's graduations. They're celebrating anniversaries. All of these things are just ruined. You can't get those back. And he just doesn't seem to care. It's really disheartening.
Yeah. I was surprised that there wasn't, like, I know Expedia is number 3 on your list, but
yeah,
I didn't see a single airline. That was surprising.
Yeah. And not to get them off the hook, airlines are terrible at customer service, except for maybe Virgin. Virgin's great.
Okay.
Just to give them a shout out. But if I was to put every airline on this list, it would just be airlines. So they're all bad, and they're getting worse. I think I put American Airlines as honorable mention because I had a terrible experience with them this year, where they called something a weather issue and they canceled the flight for it, but the weather was fine in both cities, and they flew other planes in that exact same route at the exact same time. When I called them out for it over email, they couldn't dispute it. So I had to stay an extra night in that city, pay for my own hotel. They did nothing to help me. And I don't know how often this excuse is being used incorrectly or erroneously, but I'm sure airlines do it all the time, because when you cite weather as the issue, they're essentially off the hook. They're not being held responsible for that. And when you do the digging like I did, you call them out for it, they just stop responding to you, apparently. So
that's crazy.
It's bad. Yeah. Southwest got fined, at least. If you saw in the news, Southwest Airlines got fined $140 million by Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of Transportation.
Yeah, he should not have that job. That's like...
Yeah, I mean, I was just happy to see them being held responsible for bad customer service, because they're one of 10 or 15 airlines that are terrible at it. So maybe this will wake them up. If they're able to get fined for it now, then maybe we'll see some change. But yeah,
hopefully. Awesome, thanks. I'm also so do you have a personal experience that really set you off on this path? I'm curious if you could go into detail about that.
I've had some bad ones with airlines, particularly. Those definitely set me off. I think when I see a company just totally ignoring customer happiness or customer wellness, that sets me off more than anything. With airlines in particular, there's that 24-hour rule. You buy a flight. If it's 24 hours later and you get sick or something really bad happens, they will do everything in their power to not get that money back to you. That's happened to me quite a bit. And I've had to go through travel insurance, which is great, but it takes weeks to get it back from a travel insurer. So things like that really set me off, where it's like the airline could just refund you, and they could, make a good case for themselves and say, this is not in our contract to do this, but we'll be nice this time, and we're sorry you were sick. The only airline that really does that is Virgin. And that's why I keep mentioning them. They're like the one exception to the rule. But these other airlines, because they're an oligopoly and they can operate this way, they've all colluded together and all have terrible policies. Whether it's a sick passenger or stranded passengers in an airport, they will do the bare minimum,
Yeah.
So I think those were some of my earliest really bad experiences with customer service, and I think that's what set me off. I don't remember the exact thing that got me to start this Twitter account and help people, but airlines were definitely on my radar. They still are.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how bad Airbnb or Expedia or Uber were until I started reading all these stories. But yeah, it's probably an airline that really got me going.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I was curious, do you have any companies that other than you talked about Virgin, you praise them for really good customer service? Are there any other companies with really good customer service like that you would recommend to people?
There are some good ones out there, few and far between, unfortunately. I actually think Amazon has pretty decent customer service. I see some complaints on Twitter every now and then saying that it's not good, but every time I've had to deal with them, they're pretty quick. They will often rush a package for you if something goes wrong. They're good with refunds. So, yeah, I've only had good experiences with them.
Yeah.
And that's an example of a company, worth billions of dollars like Airbnb, who could have chosen to have bad customer service because they have such a huge chunk of the market, right?
Yeah.
They could have had terrible customer service and still done okay, but they've decided to have good customer service. And stories like that are nice. They give us some hope because they're consciously choosing to have good customer service.
I mean, just that we're recording in right now, Riverside.fm, like they're way better. In my opinion, they have way better. It's like Zoom, but you can edit videos in it. You can add sounds in it. It ends up the quality we're in right now looks low, but they end up actually having really high quality video.
Yes.
And they make it really easy to they're actually like an affiliated marketing partner of us. So it's like we have a link in our bio, and they make it really easy to just get discounts for people or other people to make money from them too. And it's the same price as Zoom, so it's kind of crazy. Yeah, it does way.
Yeah.
And they
Pretty
respond
cool, yeah.
really quick. Like I've had a few issues where things haven't recorded when I was first using it, and then they would respond within half an hour, get it fixed within 24 hours. So that's cool.
Yeah, that sounds like really good service, and they're going above and beyond, which is all you can really ask for. Another good one is Amex. They have always had historically good customer service, and they're an oligopoly, right? There's only 4 credit card companies. They don't have to have good service, but they're choosing to be known for that, and I really appreciate when companies do that. So
yeah, that's awesome. Trying to see. I'm just gonna pull up these questions I had. Where were they? I think I'm through most of them, but do you think AI is gonna have a more negative impact on customer service with all the early AI bots and everything that are kind of rapidly appearing right now?
So there's 2 sides to this coin. One of them is if you only use AI like Uber has. Uber has resorted to bots,
Mm-hmm.
and it's painfully obvious. And when you don't do AI well, and you kind of half-ass it, not only is it bad, but it doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help the consumer resolve issues faster. It doesn't help the company because their consumers are pissed. And so that's an example of a company really failing with AI right now. Maybe they're using AI for other things with their cars, but in terms of customer service, a lot of companies have resorted to just using bots and poorly. That being said, there are really good uses of AI for customer service to help filter issues when you're in a pickle and you type something into the chatbot. It can sort it quicker than a human can.
Yeah, direct you to the right place. Yeah.
To the right person. I think there's a place for AI in customer service. I just don't think it'll ever truly replace humans 100%. Because at the end of the day, people want to speak to a human when they're frustrated, when they're in despair. They don't want to speak to a bot. As good as that bot may be, the bot can't really understand you like a human can. So
true.
I just hope that it's
that's a really good point.
Yeah. I hope it's used as a complement rather than a substitute. It should not be substituting humans in this area, 100%.
Where do you think AI should be substituting humans?
That's a good question. I think for some of the more mundane jobs, like grocery store checkout, I feel like those types of jobs where you're just kind of ringing up items and charging someone, those could be done by a bot, potentially. So repetitive tasks that a bot can be trained on pretty easily, I think those will be, hands down, 5 or 10 years, you'll just see bots doing them.
Yeah.
Saves the company money, it saves the users time. When you have that combination of things, it's almost always going to happen, as long as the implementation cost isn't incredibly high.
Makes sense.
A company like Amazon can afford those high costs. So even if the costs are high, that might not be a barrier to doing this.
Yeah, I was just actually, for the first time, my friend had one of those Tesla, the Model S that drives itself, and we drove home in a snowstorm from Christmas last night, and I was like, holy shit, this is pretty scary. What do you think about all that? You think it'll replace drivers soon? I actually think it will, since we got home in a snowstorm, but it still just felt really weird in my brain.
I think it will eventually replace drivers. Elon Musk is obsessed with the small details.
Yeah.
He's a beast when it comes to perfection and getting things right. And say what you want about the guy, but he's done a bunch of things that people said were impossible. So I think self-driving, he's very committed to getting this done. I'm sure he'll do it.
Yeah, for sure.
To a place where the margin of error is so small that it'll become the norm, I think.
Another thing is going back to your website and your YouTube channel and Twitter. I don't know if you have any other social media. But I'm curious, how have you had any success helping other people? Do you have any memorable stories of where you kind of triumphed over these companies?
Yeah, I get a lot of thank yous on Twitter, and that's what keeps me going. Because a lot of people just aren't aware of the options that they have when they're facing a customer service crisis. A lot of people give up. They stomach a loss. They get really upset, and then they just move on. But I always tell people, and there's tips on my website as well for this, I always tell people to fight, because it's your hard-earned money. You shouldn't have to lose it to a big company because they failed to provide good service for you. So I often tell people to dispute charges with their credits. You have 120 days to do that normally. And if you can provide evidence that you weren't provided the service you paid for, they'll almost always side with you.
Yeah.
So that's even debit cards, not just credit cards, debit cards too. So a lot of people don't even realize they can do that. And the small claims thing that I recommend as well, If a credit card dispute falls through, or
Does that cost the consumer small claims court? Is it you could just go represent yourself, or do you need to hire a lawyer to do that? Because I honestly have no clue.
yeah, most people don't. It's actually very easy. It costs $35 in my state to do
Small
it.
claims
Varies by
court.
state. But yeah, opening a case is pretty simple. You can represent yourself. They give you a court date. You go, you bring the evidence, and you're in front of a judge. A lot of cases don't have lawyers involved. And if you're dealing with a loss of $1,000 or $2,000, a $30 cost to open up a case or whatever it is in your state, it's more than worth it.
Okay.
So
have you won one personally before?
I have won a couple.
Yeah.
Yes. And I would have taken American Airlines to small claims for that case that I mentioned earlier. I was prepared to sue them. But because my travel insurance covered me, I decided not to. I let them off the hook. But I wanted to, because those are the types of cases that I really should be bringing to court.
And have you lost any?
I have not lost any to date.
Okay.
So
That's
I've been
awesome.
fortunate.
So that's really interesting that you can. I feel like a lot of people just don't know that you can go to small claims court for such a low amount of money, and then actually be able to, you take a little bit loss of $30, but if you're making back $2,000, it's like that's totally worth your time, probably.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And a lot of the courts are $5,000 or less. So anything beneath that, you can bring it to court. So
awesome. That's really good to know, I think. Yeah, that's a great tip for people. Do you have any plans to kind of, like, I almost see that the service you're not, it seems, my understanding is you're providing the service for free.
Yeah, I'm volunteering to help people every day. I do want to make a documentary. The trailer is on top of my Twitter page. So
yeah, I was actually playing that before you hopped on the call, but with the first minute of it. So
yeah, that's my dream, to get that out there. I think a lot of people would be much more educated about this, about these companies in particular, because everyone has dealt with bad customer service in their lives. But if I highlighted a couple of really bad actors and had it on movie screens, that would reach a much wider audience, and that's my goal.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, feel free. I can definitely send you our this service records video of all our sides, so you can get all that. And if you ever do make the documentary, feel free to use any clips from this in it.
Cool. Yeah. Appreciate that.
But yeah, anyway, I think that's about all the questions I have for tonight. I was just trying to get one short episode in kind of before the end of the year. I was hoping to have this other guy on who's going to share some like horror stories, and this other woman. They both ended up being busy tonight. So maybe, one day we could kind of do a whole panel episode on this. Would be kind of fun with multiple people. And when my co-host is back sometime next year, maybe in February. But I really appreciate you coming on. It's @Mers on Twitter. Your website is customerservicehell.com. Is there anything else you want to shout out or mention?
We're on TikTok. We're on YouTube. Same handle.
Customer Service Hell, or @Sad Customers?
Sad Customers. Yeah.
All right.
Sad Customers on all the socials.
Yeah, and any final like kind of words of advice or tips or anything you want to share or leave us with?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend everyone to visit my tips page on my website. It's customerservicehell.com/tips.
Great.
Just go through a list of things you can do if you're in a bad situation, no matter who the company is that you're dealing with, whether it's a small or big one. But,
I'll put that
just
link in
overall
our bio too for everyone. So,
cool.
And then, is there any other like last words?
Last words of advice. It's very easy to get frustrated with customer service these days. It's getting worse across the board. But I'm happy to help. if you run across anything or you feel like you're at a dead end. So find me on Twitter, Sad Customers, and I'll help you navigate the route, because it's not always easy. And I've been there so many times, and because I've dealt with so many different companies in these situations, I can help people find the easiest resolution. So happy to help, and I'll keep doing it. So
Yeah, awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on. Happy New Year's. And this is an outro song by a local artist named Pickle Walks. It's called
awesome.
Ohio.
Cool.
Yep,
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, thanks everyone. And that's Ohio by Pickle Walks. Thanks for listening to another episode of Baptize Machine, and we will see you all next year.